Join me as I travel through the world of Pokemon Violet. I'm only using one type, and that's the toxically amazing Poison type. Will we crush the AI, or will we get smushed like a bug? I decided to pick Sprigatito because it's a grass type. Naturally, it'll be poison. Oh, it becomes dark type. See ya then. I then move on, and we're going to get our actual starter being a Wooper. Even though it glitches keeping us in third person for the capture, we do catch it and give it the name Ivy. And why stop there? Let's go and run into a Shroodle. We catch that, and that gets the name of Harley. Now we can take on our first challenge, being Katie. I use Swords Dance as she just uses a double kick, which does about a third damage to me. Even with a crit, she won't KO, so I go for another one. I'm then going to use Acrobatics. Now this is not only enough to get rid of the Nimble, but enough to finish off her entire team and Brassius's entire team using a similar strategy. In between them two gyms, I did run into a Gulpin. Upon capturing, I gave it the name Clayface. I also ended up taking on the Titan that is Cloth. It ended up using block against me, but I retaliated just by using a Yawn. It then ends up rock smashing me. It does nothing though, and I retaliate with an acid spray that also does nothing, but at the same time it harshly lowers his special defense. And because of the Yawn, he ends up going to sleep. While he's asleep, I decide to use 2 more acid sprays, knocking him to -6 special defensively. I then end up using Sludge. Now this thing does amazing damage, but not quite enough to get him off the field, and it activates his Anger Shell, giving him ups to all his attack. Even after that, his Rock Smash is doing nothing. This means that I can use one last Sludge, and it sends him scurrying on out of here. After this, I am going to run into a Krogunk. Unfortunately, though, it's 1 level over our current level cap. And from there, we give her the name Talia. I then run into a Ghastly. Thankfully, this one is under our level cap. And because of that smile, we give him the name Joker. Bombardier's making a stink pooping down a mountain. Speaking of which, why don't you make a stink by farting on that subscribe button? The battle starts with Bombardier doing major damage with a pluck, as I can only get off a Yawn. I'm not going to survive another, so I switch into Joker, but Joker does almost die from this as well. Lucky that Yawn put it to sleep. It's guaranteed to stay asleep, so I use an acid spray in order to lower its special defense. A Thunderbolt then finishes off phase 1. Unfortunately for me though, this is the one Titan fight where you can't actually heal between the phases. I have to hope it won't go for me, which the first turn it doesn't. It uses Torment and it uses it on Nacli. This is going to allow me to get a Yawn off. This is crucial to staying alive, and it's going to let Nacli get a Rock Throw off. Next turn though, unfortunately, it's going to pluck, it's going to target me, and we lose Clayface. How dare you, Bombardier? You use Torment on Nacli, yet you attack me? Why not just use Torment and keep my Clayface alive? The sacrifice was not in vain though. It's asleep. That means I can get a Thunderbolt off, and when you combine that with the Rock Throw of Nacli, we do finish Bombardier off. I appreciate the sacrifice, buddy, and although you weren't with us long, you were integral to everything. Our Ivy is now ready to evolve, and she's gonna become a Clodsire. And with that, let us get into the Giacomo fight. First turn, I Terrasilize so the Aerial Ace doesn't do too much damage, and I bulk up to raise my attack and defense. And also giving myself some leftovers, some nice recovery. It hits me with a brutal Metal Claw as I use bulk up again. The leftovers let me survive this next Metal Claw, and he actually got an attack rise, so I'm glad I did what I did here. I Drain Punch and wipe him out. Not only finishing him off, but giving myself some health. His Revavroom then uses Snarl against me, knocking me back down to 6 HP. However, this is something quite interesting. My Drain Punch gives me back as much health as he does in damage with Snarl this turn. Leftovers meant I was actually getting more health every turn, so we actually only need to do this a few times before we take him out. He also missed a Snarl, which is quite funny. And hey, it's been a while since we've seen a gym leader, so let's go and take on Iono. I use a Hex and nearly managed to take on the Wattrel. Unfortunately, it wasn't a takeout though, so it can retaliate with a Spark, doing about half. Obviously, on the next turn, it is going to end up going down because it's already in the yellow. I'm then going to switch out against the Luxio. Expecting a Spark, I go into Ivy because the ground type should neutralize it. Unfortunately, it bites, and on top of that, it does crit me. My lefties do manage to give me a bit of health back though, so it's not the end of the world. I do manage to take another bite quite well, but I do flinch. On the next turn after their bite, I hate this game. On the next turn after this bite, I use Bulldoze. Beautiful. It actually got off. That's going to lower its speed as well. With me being faster now, that means zero chance for a flinch, so the Luxio is taken out. Next up is Iono's Belly Bolt, and it's unfortunate for it. As you can see, it only knows 2 moves. My ground typing plus my water absorb ability means it literally can't hit me. This makes it free for me to set up Amnesia, maxing my special defense out. Then once I've managed to get full health using the leftovers I equipped, I take out the Belly Bolt. With it all set up, her Mismagius literally does no damage to us. It's ridiculous. I can then poison jab and just whittle it down. She even manages to confuse me, and on the last turn, I hit myself for confusion, but because we're toxically poisonous, we finish her off using the poison damage itself. What a way to get the 3rd gym badge. And Joker will finally level up, and that is going to evolve him into a Haunter. We then meet Geeta, but she didn't bring Glamora with us, so we couldn't snatch it. Harley is now finally ready to evolve into a Grafaiai. Then we get attacked by a Varoom. I catch it, and I end up giving it the name Raz. With a nice little motor on our team, I decide it's time to take on the Titan that is Earthworm. I lead with Joker, who uses a Thunderbolt and knocks it for about a 3rd damage as it nearly takes us out with an Iron Tail. Knowing that I'm going to go down, I decide it's time to switch, and I bring in our new team member, Raz. It headbutts for minimal damage, but I flinch. Thankfully, it doesn't manage to get 2, and I can get off a Screech, which is going to lower its defense. I then managed to get off another Screech. No point in doing another. Therefore, I'm going to bring Talia in for her debut, but she does get hit quite hard. It then ends up using Wrap against us. This was a slight error on my point because I could have been taken out here. Luckily, it worked out, and a Drain Punch is going to finish it off. I then go and get myself a Mareanie. She gets given the name of Selena. And it's a good thing I didn't get her before because I actually forgot about the Melify. And this is the only Pokemon I have under the level cap for Mela. I then use a Rain Dance against Torkoal to get rid of its sun, and I equipped a Damp Rock to make it last as long as possible. This neutralizes her Flame Wheel, and then 1 Terra boosted Surf is all it's gonna take for the Torkoal to be taken out. She then lowers my defense by using a Screech. However, I retaliate with a Surf, and this thing does immense damage. Even with my defenses being low, he doesn't do much damage to us at all, and my Surf knocks it into the red, just not enough to take it out. And then on the last turn, we've used our watery abilities to knock this fiery car into the scrap heap. Her being down does mean we can make it to the halfway point of the gyms, being Kofu. I use a Thunderbolt on the Veluza, and it holds on our Slither, letting it Aqua Cutter me. The next turn is its last, though. Wugtrio's pretty fast, so it can Water Pulse, but thankfully I survive, and then I use a Thunderbolt, and it's gonna go down to that. Crabominal's weak special defense means it's going to go down to 1. Oh no. It's now allowed to get off a Crabhammer. Obviously, this is going to ruin the Joker. I honestly thought this was going to be a sweep. Like, genuinely. I thought it was going to be a sweep. I didn't even bother calculating it. I was that confident. Clodsaire's Water Absorb is going to stop it from hitting us as I Poison Jab, not quite taking it out. It tries to take me out with a Slam, but even a crit wouldn't have done anything, so I can finish it off with a Poison Jab, and unfortunately that means we've taken Kofu down with a loss. The first Pokemon I run into the Tag Tree Thicket is going to be a Venonat. Bit of a shame, I'd have preferred a Foongus. Either way, we catch him and give him the name Victor. We instantly manage to evolve him into a Venomoth, and it's here I see he's got a modest nature. I take back the Foongus comment from before. With a new member of the team, let us take on Atticus. Now, I think I'm the better poison trainer, so I'm gonna come out on top. He ends up going for a Sucker Punch, but I end up using a Bulk Up, therefore it fails. Next turn, he switches to Venoshock. I wasn't expecting this. Sucker Punch would have made it free, but now I'm on a clock. Lefties at least adds a couple seconds to that clock, and I'm only at +3 by the time I need to use my Drain Punch to stay alive, meaning the Skunk Tank won't go down in one hit. Normally, I would have been at +5 to +6 here, and it would have been free. Now, on the next turn, it does hit me with one last Veno, but I am going to take it down with a Drain Punch. I expect it to be full health here, so that isn't brilliant. His first Reverum uses a Bulldoze, which does a lot of damage and knocks me low on health. I then hit it with a Drain Punch. Again, this would have been a one-shot had I set up properly, but I'm not. I can survive one more bulldoze though, so at least I can take this Reveroom down before anything majorly bad happens. My plan's gone to pot, so I decide to switch out. I'm not going to take this muck out unless I use Victor. He knows the move Quiver Dance. This ups special attack, special defense, and speed. On top of that, Muck's moves are all special. This means every turn I'm getting more resilient against him. I'm at +5 by the time he manages to knock me into the yellow, so I can just take him out using one Psybeam. I do over half damage to the Starmobile, and luckily I terrestrialize into poison. This means the flame charge isn't super effective as I've lost that pesky bug type in. Even with that speed boost, he's nowhere near as fast as me. I'm like a rocket compared to this car, so I can take him out on the next turn. I'm hungry, so I decide to order some food. This restaurant then does the opposite of what it should do and removes all the table and chairs so I can no longer eat. Well, I decide to be a Karen. I'm gonna battle the manager because this is just not on. I use Sword Stance and they go for a yawn, attempting to put me to sleep. I can get another one off and they decide to go for a slam. This is going to leave me just above half health. And then I can eat a Chesto and that's going to remove the sleep. And then thanks to me giving Harley a load of attack EVs, I actually have enough that after terrestrialization, normal type slash one-shots them all. Krogunk then wants to evolve into a Toxicroak. Raj wants to become a Reveroom. And Selena didn't want to be left out. Therefore, she evolves into Toxapex. I run into a Salandit in Glacido Mountain. Unfortunately for me, it is a male one, so we get no evolution. I end up giving it the name Croc. All that done is gonna lead us into the rhyme battle. Her Mimikyu shadow sneaks into my Raj as I manage to sucker punch their Banette. Banette uses a sucker punch of its own, but it's actually into Raz as I hit an Iron Head to break Mimikyu's disguise. The next sucker punch is gonna be enough to take down that Banette, and the Iron Head is going to crush that Mimikyu. I'm then gonna use another sucker punch, which is gonna take out the Toxtricity. I Iron Head into the Houndstone, not quite enough to take it out, and it uses Phantom Force to disappear. I did end up switching out to a normal type, but it turns out I was wrong. Raj was the one he was attacking. One last Iron Head is more than enough to take it out though, and that is going to seal us the 6th gym badge. Iron Treads can't really touch us. All its moves are pretty pathetic, and our Surf does immense damage to him. Therefore, I'm just going to skip past it as you know how easy it was for me. Tulip isn't quite as simple though, so let's go through it. I start with Raz and use a Shift Gear. This ups my attack 1 stage and my speed 2. It retaliates with a Zen Headbutt and actually does a lot of damage to us. I've got enough health to get 3 of these off. Unfortunately for me though, it actually ends up going for a Reflect on that 3rd one that I set up. The next turn I attack with Iron Head, but that Reflect has stopped me from KOing it, and it can Zen Headbutt me. Luckily, it knocked me into the red, and I activate my Wiki Berry, giving me my health back. I'm on enough health where I can take another attack. Therefore, I Shift Gear 1 more time, and that also wastes a turn of Reflect. That extra attack does mean that I can take Farigiraf out on the next turn. And at this point, I'm going to outspeed every single one of a Pokemon. After I take down the Gardevoir, the Reflector's worn off. That ensures that I one-shot both Espathra and Florges. To be honest, Florges is that physically weak at a one-shot anyway, but Espathra maybe not. I decide I want to give Croc a chance to shine. Unfortunately, he's actually got a minus speed nature currently. I gave him a berry to fix this problem, allowing us to be faster than most of their Pokemon. Now, Russia uses ice types. You'd think using a fire type, I'd be able to take them all on, right? I start off by using Nasty Plot. This ups my special attack. Unfortunately for me though, the Frostmoth does use Tailwind. I then use Protect in order to block the incoming Blizzard. Next turn, it will manage to connect though, knock me to 5 health. However, I've equipped myself a berry in order to get some of that health back as I go for another Nasty Plot. I Protect again. This is going to be because it is the last turn of Tailwind, so I will be faster after this turn. And now Flamethrower will burn this little moth to a crisp. I forgot to Terra. The Terra would have made it so I survived the Aqua Jet. I'm sorry, Croc, but it's not like you were useful anyway. My next Pokemon, Talia, uses a Bulk Up. This allows it to narrowly avoid getting KO'd by this Beartic's Earthquake. The attack boost does make it so a Drain Punch is gonna finish it off though, so it's all hunky-dory. Although Sir Titan looks big and bulky, it actually isn't that strong as I one-shot that as well. And finally, goodbye Altaria and hello 8 gym badges. We are now ready to take on the Pokemon League. Well, ready in terms of it being available. Let's get a team member in Toxel first. Although I couldn't get a matching ball for it, I can give it a matching name in Two-Face. I realize we're missing one of the Gen 9 Pokemon, being Glamora. I catch the Glimmet and I give it the name Bane. We then get them both to evolve. The team complete does mean that I'm going to take on the creator of the Starmobiles, being Ortega. Overdrive one-shots the Azumarill. Sludge Bomb blasts the Wigglytuff off the face of the earth. Dash Bun does manage to get off a crunch, but our Sludge then corrodes all its chances that it had of living. Against the Reveroom, I decide to bring Two-Face back in and bring out Raj, because honestly, he really can't do anything to us. He then ends up Confuse Raying me. Now, this normally wouldn't be an issue, but confusion is the one thing that can ruin my plan, and it does get in the way as I hit myself this turn. It spins out, lowering its speed yet again on the next turn, and this time confusion isn't getting in my way and I can hit it with an Iron Head. For goodness sake, can you stop it? Finally, at least it's not a risk at this point, so we can get another one off. Thankfully, he doesn't confuse me again. This means I win the battle, but nearly losing to confusion is definitely something I didn't expect going into this battle. And now it's time to take on the final Titan, that being Dondozo. Terra Overdrive nearly takes it out. We then have Greedent just use Tail Whip, but that didn't matter. And the Water Pulse the Dondozo used actually managed to confuse me, which is quite frustrating. It didn't end up mattering though, as we hit through it and Dondozo goes down. In the Tatsugiri phase, it uses Muddy Water and actually lowers my accuracy. This normally wouldn't be an issue, but my 100% accurate Nuzzle then ends up missing. Yeah, I was getting paralysis to slow it down and I miss. I then switch into Ivy. Now, I do this as Greedent is taken out in one with a Dragon Pulse. It uses Icy Wind, which knocks me for some amazing damage, and I use Earthquake doing pitiful damage to it. They make an error and use Muddy Water. My Water Absorb gives me my health back, and it allows me to get another Earthquake off. Dragon Pulse does end up doing some big damage, but thankfully, I've knocked it into the yellow. I then end up switching out to Raz as I won't survive another, but it uses Icy Wind instead. I resist that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Dragon Pulse ends up doing more than I thought it would. However, it's not really too much of an issue. Greedent's Tail Whips make it so I can knock it in range of being KO'd. Plus we poison to add extra safety to it. Raz has had enough of the spotlight, so I decide to bring Bane out. And Bane seals the deal. It knows the incredibly powerful Sludge Wave, which is more than enough to get rid of Tatsugiri. Final Titan down does mean it is now time to take on the last member of Team Star, being Eri. This is normally a tough battle. Not today though. Toxicroak is going to use Sucker Punch until it runs out of PP, and we just use Quiver Dance every time. That gives us a minimum of 5 of these. From there, it is literally a sweep with Psychic. Not even the Starmobile has enough health and defense to take me on. Now, I decide it's time to take on Clavel. I'd normally wait until after the Elite Four just to save my levels, but I know I can take him on under the level cap of the Elite Four. I start off with Victor and his Quiver Dance as he uses a Yawn in an attempt to put me to sleep. I'm then going to use another one, but this time he decided to set up a Reflect. Now that's against physical attacks. I don't know what he was thinking. A Chesto Berry then manages to cure my sleep. I can then use the move Substitute, which is going to stop his Yawn right in its tracks. And this is going to allow me to get off a Quiver Dance. He's then going to use a Foul Play, breaking the Substitute. I can do this 2 more times. That means I can then Baton Pass while my Substitute is up to let me take the damage from the Oranguru. Turns out I didn't mean to because it used Reflect. From here, a combination of Sludge Waves and Power Gems are more than enough to annihilate Clavel's team. That all done is gonna mean that we can now head on and face the Elite Four. First member of which being Rika and her ground types. She starts off by using an earth power as I go for a yawn. Chi Muddy Waters, which is going to give me my health back thanks to my water absorb as I set up some toxic spikes. Knowing they'll stay asleep, it's safe to switch into Bane. Bane can then freely set up stealth rocks in order to stop the Pokemon coming out from using Sturdy. I then bring in Victor and it ends up being safe as they stay asleep on turn 3 as well. Whiscash only knows special moves, so the safest thing for me to do is set up some Quiver Dances. I protect myself while getting some attack. Doesn't really matter though as it uses Future Sight. I'm then just gonna keep setting these up. The higher I can be, the better off I am. As you can see, the Blizzard does nothing, and anything it does do, I basically get rid of with my leftovers. Stealth Rock damage in combination with all of the +6s that I've got and a Giga Drain means that we can get through literally all of Rika's team. Not even the fire type in Camerupt could withstand us because that ground type still makes us do neutral damage. We're now gonna move on to the second member of the Elite Four, being Poppy. We start off very similar to the last battle, whereas I use a Yawn as they use Stealth Rocks. I then decide to Yawn again. This is because I don't want any damage on this Copperajah, but it does nearly take me out with a high horsepower. It's then guaranteed to be asleep, therefore I can safely bring in Talia. I'm then going to use Bulk Up to get my attack and defense up, but I'm not as lucky this time around. They actually wake up this second turn and hit me with a Heavy Slam. The next turn, even though I'm low, I do still use Bulk Up. This is because the defense boost will actually make it so I'll just survive the attack. And I equipped a Wiki Berry, so I'm getting my health back regardless. I then one-shot it with a Drain Punch and get back almost all of my health. We then have the Bronzong. Now I terrestrialized and bulked up. This is because that loses me my fighting type, allowing me to survive a Zen Headbutt. At this point, I'm strong enough where a Sucker Punch will take it out. Corviknight then just manages to survive a Drain Punch. However, it wastes its turn by going for an Iron Defense. And that's going to cost it dearly as one more is more than enough to wipe it out. I use Astonish against Magnezone because it has Sturdy. However, I don't get the flinch, but it doesn't matter as it just uses Light Screen. Then one firm smack to the eye, make sure that it never looks at us again. Tinkaton does manage to get off a Gigaton Hammer, but it does almost nothing to us. And on top of that, it lost its fairy typing, so we're super effective against it, and we take it out. Larry isn't too happy about what we did to him last time. Therefore, what he's gonna do is fight us with his flying types. Now, I decide to start off incredibly strong. I use an Overdrive, which is enough to one-shot the Tropius once I've terrestrialized. And on top of that, it activates my Throat Spray, giving me a special attack boost. Staraptor is then going to be able to get a close combat off, but it's no worries. With our plus special attack, an Overdrive is more than enough to wipe the floor. We didn't even need the lower defenses. Altaria then Dragon Pulses. Now, I'm going to be honest, this being faster than me was quite surprising. I don't really know why, I just thought it was going to be slower, and I one-shot it with an Overdrive anyway, but now I'm lower than I thought I'd be. Against the Oricorio, I know it's faster, so I'm not going to be able to take it out. I switch in Bane, but it gets hit with an Icy Wind on the switch in. It Teeter Dances, which isn't great as that is going to confuse me, but I don't actually end up hitting myself. I can hit a Power Gem, and that means Oricorio goes down. Last up is going to be Flamigo, who gets a close combat off on us, and with them drop defenses, we will one-shot it with a Power Gem. Or we would have. We hit ourselves in confusion here. This is a rough spot to be in. I'm then going to switch into Ivy. This is because I know Ivy can tank the majority of attacks. Look how little damage that close combat did. Unfortunately though, on my calculator, I forgot to put the fact that he had terrestrialized on this. This does mean he does enough damage to wipe out Ivy. This sucks. Our starter is gone. That was the first Pokemon we got on this run and we've lost it. To be poetic, at least Harley is the one that finished Flamigo off. Her best friend got revenge. Now is no time to mourn though. Let's finish this run and come out for a win for our girl Ivy. Once we're terrestrialized, Air Slash doesn't manage to do too much damage to us. This is going to make it safe to set up Quiver Dances to avoid the special attacks Noivern has. And on top of that, obviously we've got the leftovers on. On the second turn, it realizes that it's not going to manage to do much against us, therefore it uses Super Fang. This halves whatever health I've got, no matter what. I get to +3 before I'm low on health, and then I baton pass. The Pokemon I decide to bring in is going to be Two-Face, because it's going to benefit from the special attack boost. From there, I'm going to use a Boom Burst. Obviously, this is a sound-based attack, so not only does it get rid of the Noivern, it activates my Throat Spray, putting me at +4. His voice must be just too strong for them all, as well as we one-shot literally every one of his Pokemon from here on out. All of that has led us to this, the Geeta battle. She's gonna go for Lumina Crash. Now, thankfully, I had managed to Terastallize so it doesn't take me out. From there, I can use an Overdrive. Now, I know you guys know this tune because you've seen it 3 battles in a row. It's going to activate my Throat Spray. Give me a special attack boost, please. And with that, both her Avalugg and Kingambit do not stand a chance against Terastallized Overdrives. Against the Go-Go, I go for a Shift Gear. This is because I know it's going to use Bulk Up, and I actually need my speed to be higher for the upcoming Pokemon. Sludge Bomb is then going to finish it off thanks to the fact that it's super effective. After this, all we need to do is use 2 more Overdrives. Both her Veluza and Glimora can do nothing but stand by and watch as we shock them into the ground. Before taking on Nemona, we're gonna have to take down Penny. I can then use Shift Gear with my Revavroom. Now, this is going to up his speed and his attack. With the help of a Wiki Berry healing me while I'm doing these setups, I do actually manage to get to +3. And from there, 6 consecutive poison jabs are going to take down Penny. The Evolutions really don't have anything defensively with the exception of Umbreon, so it's incredibly easy. And now we're gonna have the Arven battle. His freshly healed Mabostiff is unfortunately going to fall to us. First turn, I use Magnet Rise, getting rid of my weakness to the ground typing. This allows me to set up as many Shift Gears as I want, literally can do it to my heart's content, as Greedent can barely touch me. After this, we just need to use Poison Jabs on anything that isn't weak to it, and then Iron Heads on anything that it'll be super effective against, and we sweep. Now we have one final rival we have to take down, and that is going to be the best rival in Nemona. Now, I had an air balloon on to stop it from using a ground type attack against me. This lets me set up a sword stance, as it can only hit me with a stone edge, keeping me alive. Low Sweep will then one-shot the Lycanroc. With Earthworm, I use Doodle. This lets me steal its Earth Eater ability. I know it's going to be going for Earthquake, so it's basically free health. I then use a Low Sweep against this as well. Unfortunately, I don't KO it, but it only uses Rock Blast, which barely damages me at all. Obviously, on the very next turn, though, we did knock it in the yellow, so we're gonna knock it out. I use Low Sweep against the Dunsparce because I know it's gonna use Coil. We've got up to attack, so it's gonna want to up its defense. Thankfully, we knock it to about 1/4 HP. This means even with its defense boost, we will KO it the next turn. And now a Terra boosted Slash will manage to one-shot a Pawmot. Next up, we do have her Goodra. Now, this thing is a pretty tanky mon, and when I was doing the calcs, it actually only has a 75% chance of KOing. Woo! We managed to take it out. Thank God. Last up is her Quaquaval. Now, I only have a 25% chance of OHKOing this, therefore I decide to be careful. I switch out into Talia, and I'm expecting it to go for an Aqua Step. I've got Dry Skin, so it shouldn't matter. It goes for Ice Spinner, but doesn't do too much damage. It then does good damage to us with an Ice Spinner. And on top of that, I use Drain Punch, so I'm actually now out of range of being KO'd. Turns out she didn't know Dry Skin was a thing, therefore her Aqua Step gives me some health back. After my Drain Punch, I actually end up on full health on the end of this turn. She then decides she wants to use her final move, being Aerial Ace, but it's too little too late. I just need one more Drain Punch, and I have defeated Monona! Yay! I can then make it to Area 0 where I can run into the final encounter for this run, being Iron Moth. It does give me a bit of a hard time nearly KOing one of my Pokemon. With switching, we do eventually catch it without losing anyone, and we give it the name Scarecrow. And that's it. Without any further ado, let us get into the final battle of the run, being against the AI Turo. Bane manages to tank a discharge fairly well and get off a Stealth Rock. I survive the next turn, and then I'm managing to set up some Toxic Spikes. This will be helpful just in case I get crit somewhere. Oh, spoke too soon. It does crit, and that's going to finish me off on the next turn. I then Terra, and that's going to let me lose my bug typing and survive a Fiery Dance, allowing me to get off a Quiver Dance. Now that I'm faster, I can use a Quiver Dance again, upping my special defense just enough to the point where I can survive the next attack without being taken down. On top of that, I fed myself a berry, so I'm gonna be on somewhat decent health after this. It was the wrong berry. I equipped the wrong berry and I've confused myself. Oh no. It's fine, it's fine. My Baton Pass still worked. That's gonna allow me to switch into our new Pokemon, being Scarecrow. Before the battle, I equipped him with a booster energy. That gives me 20% on top of my special attack. And on top of that, the Fiery Dance does nothing to us because it's resisted. Yes, we snapped out of confusion. The first time in this run, we haven't hit ourselves out of turn while we've been confused. And now we can Fiery Dance. Didn't get the boost though, which sucks, and they get a discharge off. I'm going to use another Fiery Dance. This time, the 50% activates, so we get a special attack boost, and we take down the Iron Moth. And now, from here, it is literally game over. My Stealth Rocks are knocking any of them I wouldn't one-shot into range of being taken out. That allows me to take down all of the Pokemon, the only hiccup being an Iron Hands with Fake Out, which does an awful lot of damage, might I add, but it doesn't end up taking me out. And I have defeated AI Sada. Now, I want you to say that in for a minute. We've smashed it with basically 2 Pokemon.